Good morning. My name is Casey Dougherty, and I am one of the Bright customer success coaches and an active realtor licensed in Pennsylvania and Maryland. Thank you so much for joining me today to discuss best practices for working from home, which can be challenging, but not impossible. So, I have been licensed for over 40 years and have experienced many changes in the real estate profession during that time. We all find ourselves now, however, in an unprecedented situation none of us have ever had to deal with, and something that is well beyond our control. As realtors, we are used to being in control. Different states have different rules and guidelines for our industry, which at times seem to be changing daily, even hourly, adding to our stress. There are things to remember, however, that can keep us on a positive track. Number one, don't overreact, as this is a temporary normal. Number two, we are all in this together and we will get through it. Number three, we are realtors. When you think about it, realtors are fighters. We are highly adaptable, creative, and resilient, and business does not have to stop. It may not continue for a time like we are used to, but it will continue. It has, and it always will. And number four, look at this time as an unexpected opportunity. This is your time to double down and learn everything you can to build your business. Seek out, embrace, and implement the sustainable innovations being developed, such as virtual showings and virtual open houses. This virtual world is not going away, and that is not a bad thing. Bring value to your clients by communicating with them in a positive way and by finding new ways of running your business that, without this crisis, you may never have thought of, known about, or ever used. During this webinar, we will cover the vast amount of information available to you in Bright Steps. We will also review your options for providing virtual solutions to your clients and your options for building your business so you are well prepared for when we can fully get back to business as we know it. Finally, we will cover some suggestions I have found helpful in dealing with working from home that I actually developed years ago. You have all the tools needed at your fingertips in Bright and even more under Bright Steps. Let's review some of the tools you have to use right now and in the future. Let's take a look at Bright Steps, which was developed to help you keep your business running and to help you and your clients now. As with anything in these changing times, please always consult your local state mandates to determine any changes that might affect you and your business. If you have taken any of my classes, you know that I stress the importance of keeping an eye on the information highlighted at the top and along the right-hand column on the main page in Bright. These articles cover, among other topics, updates, new features, and information that will help you run your business. You will find Bright Steps now in this section, which specifically deals with options to help you successfully navigate through the current crisis. This newly created section of Bright offers a plethora of information that is updated as new information is received. There are 4 sections in Bright Steps: the steps Bright is taking, steps for your business, steps for your clients, and additional resources. The first section of the steps Bright is taking is tools to help you work virtually, and you will find 2 important areas: Bright Steps, your virtual toolkit, and Bright Steps virtual toolkit discounts. In the first section, there are videos, articles, and links to help you navigate through these changing times and be able to continue to conduct business. Topics cover listings, collaborating with clients, e-signatures, applications, lead generation, online marketing, all things virtual, and on-demand and upcoming classes. And this is just the first section of Bright Steps. Bright Steps Virtual Toolkit discounts lists the vendors that are offering discounts on their products to help agents during this time of uncertainty. Make sure to check those out. Next in Bright Steps is the Market Update, which provides valuable market information you can share with your clients. The first option is a 5-week comparison. Click on this option and you can select a PowerPoint presentation that you can share with your clients for any of the areas within the Bright footprint you are licensed in and specialize in. Let's explore Pennsylvania. This slide details new to the market properties. Properties from last year are in blue and properties from this year are in orange. Please note the trends are relatively consistent year to year. Yes, the numbers are lower than last year, but the trends remain uniform. Be that positive force for your clients and show them that the market is not flatlining, but following yearly trends. The second option is a week-to-week comparison. As with all things in Bright, you have more than one option to choose from. This is not a system that offers only one way to work. It is a system that enables you to customize how you work best. Next in Bright Steps is information detailing upcoming webinars, training classes, status updates, and My Bright Steps, which are videos from fellow agents highlighting steps they are taking to work through the restrictions on our ability to conduct business. You can also find a wealth of information regarding steps for your business and steps for your clients. You will find a variety of articles and videos geared to help you with listings, virtual events, and many tips for both you and your clients. And as if that is not enough, a list of all of the additional resources you have available to help you continue to be successful comes next. These include direct links to national, state, and local associations, informative industry articles, and a link to receive Inman Select, your source of industry-wide information. I hope you have all explored these valuable resources and will continue to check back in frequently. And if you have not, make sure to check out Bright Steps today. Now let's talk virtual. You have options if you are unable to schedule in-person appointments either for showings or open houses. There are several videos that have been created to guide you through the process of adding virtuals to your listings, and a list of those will be available to you after the webinar. Take time to view them and to also check out all of the lessons available at youtube.com/BrightMLS. This first article outlines the 3 new open house options: in-person, online only, and in-person and online. In addition, it covers how to update an open house if needed, and how to search for virtual opens and the new open house feature in the client portal. The second article, which you will receive afterwards, covers instructions and options for virtual tours and showings. The option for this new form of conducting real estate is really endless. Embrace this and reap the benefits going forward. Out of crisis comes innovation. Again, you will receive links to these and other articles and videos from this presentation after the class. So far, we have covered things that you can explore and implement while we are limited in what we can do. Now let's cover what you can be doing to prepare for when we get back to work. So the question really is, when the world opens, will you flourish? Prepare now and you will. You have many options in Bright to search for potential clients, including Public Records, HomeSnap Pro, and Remind Pro. Let's look at Public Records. A quick search in Public Records would give you, for instance, all of the homeowners in a desired area who have closed on their property over 20 years ago. Select the properties you want from the results, and you can then either create mailing labels to go to the mailing address where the tax bill is sent, or to the property address, or you can export this file to an Excel spreadsheet. I know you're all used to using HomeSnap on your phone, but you can also access HomeSnap within Bright. You can access it via the search menu. Then enter either a city, neighborhood, address, school, remember, not the school district, zip code, or MLS number of the desired location or property. The selected location will be outlined on the map, and the list of properties within that outline will be displayed to the right of the map. Next, select All Homes to bring up the Heat Maps option and search for those homeowners most likely to list and likely to list. Many supply information which you can use to contact homeowners to discuss their properties. Select Most Likely and Likely to List from the Likelihood to List option. These are properties identified as more likely to enter the market within the next 6 to 12 months. On the map, most likely to list will be highlighted in orange with the likely to list in gold. All properties will be listed to the right of the map. Click on any of the properties to glean the information needed to contact the homeowner if available. Another option in Bright is Remind Pro. Remind Pro can be accessed from the search menu or from the market research menu in Bright. Once in Remind Pro, select Search and then select Advanced. Make sure to uncheck Map Bounds in order to erase the results from the search screen, if there were any, in order to start with a clean slate. Also remember to clear filters if any had been selected previously. Then choose Off Market from the status field to list only those properties not currently listed. Enter the desired location. In this example, a zip code is entered. Remember, if you select a county, city, or school, always enter the state. Now you can choose from any of the many filters to further target your results. In this example, high sell score, meaning most likely to list within the next 6 months, and no mortgage was selected to produce 190 results. Select at the bottom of the page either List Results to bring you to a list of the properties or Map Results to highlight the results on the map. For this example, List Results was chosen. The list of all of the properties will be displayed, and you can select all by checking the box next to Address, or you can go through the list and select only those you want. You can save the search and/or select Cart to save the properties in a cart within Remind Pro. For this example, Cart was chosen. After adding the selected properties to the cart, you can then select More to print mailing labels, again, either to the mailing address or the property address. By selecting Send Mailers, you will be directed to Rocket Print and Mail for a variety of print options, including various size postcards, letters, or pull-aparts. Or you can select Export to send the file to an Excel spreadsheet. All three of these methods, Public Records, HomeSnap Pro, and Remind Pro, can also be highly effective when hosting an open house, either in person when permitted or virtually. Use any or all to identify who in the surrounding area should definitely be invited to the open house and receive future mailings. Years ago, when I lived on Long Island, I started a marketing company and worked from home. I had to create rules to live by as I had young children and we had to coexist in the same space. These are some of the things that helped me then and can definitely be used in our current situation. Set a schedule for tasks. Number one, time block. We are realtors and we are used to time blocking. Number two, designate a workspace. You may be in a situation with both spouses home and possibly children being homeschooled, and it may be a challenge, but find that spot in which you can work comfortably and claim it as your own. It may have to be shared, but find a way to work it out. Communication is the key to any great relationship. Number three, dress the part but be comfortable. I have found it impossible to function productively if I remain in PJs or even sweats all during the work week, so I dress every weekday as if I'm leaving the house and going out to work. Try it, it might help. Number four and five kind of go together. Stay hydrated, super important, along with eat healthy snacks. This is not the time to raid the fridge. Number six, make sure to move and stretch. We are not used to being in one place all day, especially not in front of a computer participating in virtual meetings. So make sure to get up and stretch often. Number seven, begin work early. I'm a very early riser and find if I complete tasks that do not need the interaction of others early in the day, I have more time for things that require communication and am more relaxed due to things I have already crossed off my to-do list. Yes, that all important to-do list. Number eight, take a lunch break. And if possible, number nine, get some fresh air, especially now. Number 10, be mindful of your posture. Sit up straight. It really does help maintain stamina and give you energy. Number 11, work in natural light if possible. It helps keep you positive. Number 12, create and communicate boundaries. A very important step, and once again, that communication step. Number 13, stay in touch with your coworkers. Don't isolate yourself. Especially in this situation, it helps to talk to and see others who are going through the same thing. Number 14, schedule chores. The dishes still have to be done and the lawn needs to be mowed, so schedule those tasks into your day. Number 15, use headphones. Headphones will help drown out some of the noise going on around you so that you can concentrate. And number 16, most important, maintain your sense of humor. We will get through this. Next up is Mike Gaudio, Vice President of Customer Service, Training and Accuracy and Policy, who will be answering the questions you have submitted. I thank you so much for attending the webinar today, and I hope you have learned a few new things that you can apply to your business. If you have questions, we at Bright are just a phone call away. I appreciate your time and hope you and yours are safe and doing well.
Okay, thanks, Casey. And now at this point in our presentation, we're going to go through some information with Mike Gaudio, who's the head of customer support, training, and accuracy and policy here at Bright. Today's webinar was a little bit different in that during registration, we asked you, of course, if you had any questions on the subject material, and we also asked your input on your tips and tricks for getting the best work from home experience. And Mike is first going to address kind of some common themes there before we turn to question and answer. So thanks for being here, Mike.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So Mike, what did we hear from our registrants?
Sure. Well, actually, there was a lot of really good feedback that came in with respect to working from home. And I think a lot of people have the right sort of mindset to get into it. And it really is very much a mindset to work from home. Getting your mindset to go to work. Just because you're at home doesn't mean you're not going to work. So these are probably the top 6 or 7 tips, the common themes that we got from your colleagues who are also working from home. I've worked from home for about 10 years, so a lot of this stuff really resonates for me. So I'll also try and incorporate sort of what I've learned from 10 years of being a remote worker myself. And the first theme very much was, this is very much a mindset. Getting yourself in the mind to go to work during particular hours of the day. Really making a switch in your head between I'm at home and I'm at work. And I was talking to one of my colleagues the other day, and her mental switch was she discovered that she had to put on shoes. When she had real shoes on, that was work time. When she was wearing slippers, that was recreational time. That putting on shoes and using that same pantomime that she used when she was going to work, that's the trigger she used to get in the habit of the going to work mindset when working from home. That's a very important trigger is making that mental switch from I'm at home and this is recreational or relaxation time to I'm going to work. And that part of the going to work can also be theme number 2, and that is to have a dedicated area to do your work if possible. Do your dedicated work in the same place every time. Don't use your bed. Don't just grab your laptop off your nightstand and sit in your bed and do your work. Pick a spot and make that your dedicated office, whatever that is. It could be a table, a desk. It could be some particular area of your home or wherever you live to carve out to use your work, but make that spot your dedicated work. That way you can mentally be at work when you're in that place and not relax and get distracted there. Which is really the next theme that we got a lot from the feedback, and that was avoid distractions. We know at home there are plenty of distractions. There's lots of creature comforts. That fridge is right over there, and it's got food in it. CNN is right over there, or TV, or whatever it is that you watch. But try to avoid those distractions. Don't watch TV while you're trying to work. You wouldn't do that at the office. Don't just wander over to the fridge every time. Try and avoid those distractions. And that includes, I know for me, it's resisting the urge to go and do chores and just say, oh, I'll take 5 or 10 minutes to do those chores. You wouldn't go and do your home chores while you're sitting at your desk at work. That has a different time. You do that before work, you do that after work, you do that on the weekends. Still try and get in that mindset of being at work or being at home. Which was another theme that came up a lot, and that is be disciplined with your schedule. You don't go to the office from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. You have hours that you typically go to the office if you're not accustomed to working from home. Maybe it's 8 to 5, maybe it's a few hours in the morning and a few hours in the afternoon, but pick a schedule and respect it. Treat your time at work the same as you would as you were in the office. Just because you're at home doesn't mean you're not going to work, as I mentioned before. So treat the area where you work, treat the time where you work. Another theme that came up a lot was get dressed. Actually, get dressed as if you're going to work. I know that's what I do every day. I'm wearing a collared shirt and real pants. I'm not just sitting in my jammies or my sweatpants. That's a thing that you hear a lot when you hear people that are new from working from home. They're like, man, I don't even get dressed in the morning. I just roll out of bed, get in my jammies, and start going to work. That may work for some people, but for many people, myself included, I actually need to make that mental switch. I need to get dressed and get in a mindset to go to work. Even though I'm at home today, I'm still wearing a collared shirt and I'm wearing real grown-up clothes because I'm at work. I'm not just at home. So getting dressed is another one of those ways to get into the work mindset. Finally, pick your work hours. I think I mentioned this before. Pick your work hours and stick to them. Take a real lunch break and pick a time, and this is the important theme that I saw. Pick a time to go home from work. Just because you're at home, you still want to try and have that work-life balance. So whether it's 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night, but pick a time when you close that computer, when you log off from work, and you actually go take care of your home life. Just because you're at home doesn't mean you need to be at work every waking hour. Pick your time, and also pick your time when you're going to dedicate it to your home balance. Take care of your chores. You have to respect your time at home just like you respect your time at work. And if you can start to get into that mindset, that will help. And then finally, one of the other themes that came up was this last one. I thought this was a really good one, and that was use this time to learn some new skills. You may find that you've gotten a couple extra hours of the day that you're not driving around anymore. You're not going to the gas station. You're not commuting to and from work. So if you find that that's a half an hour a day, something like that, use that time to learn. There are lots of places like LinkedIn Learning or Skillshare, places where you can take an online, on-demand class. Quick plug for the Bright MLS YouTube channel. If you wanted to learn more about R.O.N tools, learn how to use Bright better, there's the Bright MLS YouTube channel. But there's lots of places where you can learn a new skill. Maybe now's the time, if you've never had this from a prospecting perspective, maybe now's the time to learn a little bit about social media marketing. Well, for $35, you could go over to LinkedIn Learning and take their social media strategy class. And if you have a library card, if you're a member of your local library, they might have free access to some of those different tools. I know my local library had access to lynda.com, which became LinkedIn Learning, and I could access all of the lynda.com classes for free just because I had my library card. So if you do find yourself with an extra hour that you used to dedicate to going to and from the office, maybe use that hour to learn something new so that when you're using your dedicated time at work, you can actually be more effective and more efficient. So those were the themes that came up from your feedback. We're really, really grateful for your feedback. Lots of good information came in, and I hope I did justice to summarize those real quickly. But that's what I learned. And as somebody who's been working from home myself, been a remote worker for about 10 years now, I think a lot of those things have certainly held true for me. So that's what we had, Valerie. Now we can move on to the Q&A if you'd like.
Great. So our first question comes from Syed in Virginia, and Syed asks how working at home as a realtor can help them in maximizing their income potential.
Sure. Well, certainly working from home and being a realtor, you can, the nice thing about being a realtor is you can earn for as hard as you work. I know many real estate agents, real estate professionals that don't necessarily go into the office every day, but they do treat that time, as I mentioned before, they do treat their time as working time. So they carve out time of their day to do their marketing, their prospecting, their farming. They keep in touch with clients. They manage their portfolio of deals. So you can work from home, from that home office, and really generate deals. You can do your work. You can work from home. So working from home, it's really the level of dedication and effort and expertise you put into that time when working from home. If you work efficiently and effectively, then you can increase or quote unquote maximize your income potential.
Lyric from Maryland asks how to do a CMA.
Sure. Walking through a CMA is kind of a multi-step process, probably a little too long to go through in the Q&A here, but you're not out of the, you still have resources at your fingertips. Where I might suggest is go over to our YouTube channel. You heard me mention that before. That's at youtube.com/BrightMLS. Search for how to do a CMA, and we have a video there, a little on-demand learning to sharpen your skills, and that will walk you through how to do a CMA from beginning to end.
Abderrahmane from Pennsylvania asks, what to adapt in the real estate business in a pandemic era?
Sure. I mean, I think it really is focusing on providing benefit through the virtual business practices that you have. There are many virtual business practices that you can do. Things that you did in person. Many of those same activities do translate to a virtual business practice. You can hold virtual open houses by scheduling a Zoom conference when you might be at the house that's for sale, and people can come and ask you questions, and you can use your phone and walk through the property, answer questions just as you would in a regular open house, a quote unquote regular in-person open house. There's virtual tours, lots of virtual tour vendors out there that are creating virtual walkthroughs of houses, virtual showings where you maybe do a FaceTime or a Skype with somebody and you can talk about the property. So there's lots and lots of virtual tools at your availability. Getting the hang of those tools, practicing using those tools. If you've got a friend and say, hey, could we simulate doing a virtual showing of my house where I call you and you ask me questions, to do a practice run. You can absolutely do those sorts of things. There's lots you can still accomplish. And you might, as I mentioned before, we have our on our YouTube channel for Bright, we have a whole virtual business practices thing that shows how to put in your virtual open houses and find virtual tour vendors and so forth. So the Bright YouTube channel for on-demand learning can be very beneficial.
Courtney from Maryland asks, tips for prospecting while social distancing.
Sure. I think Casey mentioned that you can certainly use the Bright Public Records system to target particular audiences, do mailing labels, print addresses, phone numbers. You also have access to Remind Pro and HomeSnap for additional prospecting tools that include things like filters and likelihood to sell and sell scores and so forth that can help you with your prospecting efforts. And I said before during the themes that this might be a good time to explore a social media strategy if you have not previously considered one. And if you've never done that, if you don't know how to do social media marketing, you can go to a site that has online learning, on-demand classes like lynda.com or LinkedIn Learning or Skillshare, places like that for creating and executing a social media strategy.
Susan from PA asks, will you be sharing how to use Zoom?
Well, Zoom isn't really a Bright product. You're probably better off going over to the zoom.us website, support.zoom.us will tell you how to download, install, create a conference, invite people, and so forth. Their support site's actually pretty good. I suggest you try learning about Zoom from the Zoom people themselves.
Charlene from Maryland and Brianna from PA ask about particulars on how to manage your time and how they should plan out their day-to-day schedules.
Sure, and this is sort of the themes that came up during the earlier section with the themes about working from home. It really is about setting a schedule that is your time at work, identifying your goals, making sure you have your to-do lists, knowing what you want to accomplish that day, managing your time from working from home is really not that much different than managing your time working at an office. Set out goals, what you hope to accomplish, and just start to work your to-do list till you can get through it and close your laptop for the day. Get into that routine, and that will help you manage your time, be more productive.
Next question comes from Bev in Maryland, and Bev asks, what is law and what is suggestion?
I think that this is really asking about things like social distancing and some of the COVID-19 related policies that different local governments are putting out there about what you can and can't do. I'm not sure I'm necessarily the authority on that because it is changing fairly rapidly. Some states and jurisdictions are talking about how they might reopen the statuses of businesses. And since it does differ from area to area, I'd suggest that you could start with guidance from your local association of realtors. They're often keeping track of what realtors and real estate practitioners can and can't do. Your brokerage may have some guidance about what you can and can't do. Remember that your license is issued by the state, so you'll want to follow closely what mandates are set down by your state for legal guidance. I know it's different between Pennsylvania and Maryland and so forth. There's not one single rule that catches them all. So I'd suggest just doing some investigation with your local jurisdictions. And they'll be able to help you get through what is law and what is suggestion.
Tangina from the District of Columbia asks how to differentiate family time from work time during quarantine when you don't have access to a home office.
Sure. I mean, I really think it comes down to communication, if at all possible, with your family and helping them understand that you're trying to do your job, you're trying to go to work, and that just as they wouldn't come and visit you at the office for every little question when you're at your office at work, they shouldn't do the same here. But setting those ground rules, setting those expectations, whether you're at home, whether you're at work, that would be very beneficial. So if your home office, quote unquote, is the kitchen table or the kitchen counter, helping your family understand that when you're there, that you're at work, and to try and minimize those disruptions. Sometimes it just comes down to communication. And I know that can be a challenge if there are really little ones at home that don't understand the concept of boundaries. But I think that's the best advice I have is setting those boundaries with your family, to try and dedicate that time at your desk as being your work time.
Lisi from Pennsylvania asks, can you search multiple schools at the same time?
Presuming that this is in Matrix, yes, you can use the map to draw specific shapes, or within the search, you can include multiple school districts as part of your search criteria. Yeah, you can do that.
And in a related question, we have Luis from Maryland who asks about filtering property results by school district.
So I think I addressed some of that in the previous answer. You can start the filter from the search results, from the search page, or from your results in the one-line search results. You can add a column for school district and sort your results by that school district. But for step-by-step instructions on how you would do that, a little bit too long to go into the Q&A, if you go over to our knowledge base at support.brightmls.com and type in custom display in the search bar, that will show you how to add the columns that you're looking for to your search results, and then you can sort and resort by those columns. That will help you filter for something like school district.
Howell from Virginia asks, what parts of Bright MLS work better from home?
Well, I'm not sure there's any parts that don't work well from home or from the office. We're sort of location independent. Bright MLS, we're essentially all web-based. So anywhere that you have a device with a connection to the internet, it should work for you. Certainly if you have your laptop or computer hooked up to the internet, your laptop, whatever it was, it really doesn't depend on your physical location what tools work better. All of the Bright tools should work equally well from home office, or work office. It should all be the same.
Larissa from Virginia asks about any suggestions on marketing tools and showing instructions.
Sure. If you haven't seen it, you might go back and watch last week's webinar in this series. You can find that on our YouTube channel, brightmls.com. So if you want to consider marketing yourself via social media, you can find a recording on that webinar at youtube.com/brightmls. I think it was called, and Valerie, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was called Support Your Sphere Through Social Media, I think was the name of the last webinar. And that will talk a lot about marketing tools in this virtual period that we're in. In terms of showing instructions, you'll want to make sure that they're clear on your seller's instructions during this time. So, for instance, if in-person showings are not possible, but virtual showings are, be sure that information's in the instructions, and that actually, is a component of your overall marketing and showing instructions, and that should help guide other agents who are interested in your property.
Cheryl from Virginia asks how to isolate yourself.
Well, I mean, I think, I'm not sure what exactly we're talking about here, but if you're talking about social distancing, certainly there's a WHO and CDC, and the news all has guidelines on staying 6 feet, being outside. I know where I live, I'm required to wear a mask. And if you are at home, doing your best to stay away from your family or visitors. I'm not really sure exactly what the question is asking here. And I'm not sure I'm the best person to tell you how to self-quarantine, if that's what you're asking. But What I can say is, as I mentioned before, the Bright tools do work wherever you are. So if you do find yourself in a self-quarantining situation and you still want to do your real estate work, you can, just as long as wherever you are isolated, you have an internet connection and a laptop or a computer, you can continue to do your work for those 2 weeks. But as far as the mechanics of how you're going to specifically self-isolate, I'll leave that to someone else who's better qualified to answer.
Joanne from New Jersey asks basically how the change of current times affected her market and how to determine from Bright's tools.
Sure. Well, I think a really good place to keep abreast of how this whole pandemic is impacting the market is if you go to our page dedicated to the COVID-19 pandemic at brightmls.com/COVID-19. Oh, one word, no dash, COVID-19. We have a page there where you can access our weekly market report and commentary that explains how to interpret what we're seeing in the market, how to explain conditions if it's something that you want to share with clients, either sellers or buyers, to try and give a sense of how the market is acting and reacting to the current situation. That's probably a good first resource to go and look at the resources that are available to you.
Our next question comes from Doug from Maryland, who asks R.O.N questions, title, remote signing, settlement.
So I think this sort of question is asking, how do you process legal documents, obtain signatures in a virtual environment? R.O.N, if I'm not mistaken, that refers to remote only notarization, I think is what you're referring to. How do you get documents notarized? Because many documents along the settlement process do require notarization. I'm not an expert in that, so I don't have any specific information about remote notarization, but I think one of the resources that would have some greater expertise is at the National Notary website, nationalnotary.org. They should have articles that are helpful. With respect to remote signing, title, and so forth, some of the resources that are out there for doing signatures on documents remotely are DocuSign, AuthentiSign from Instanet, and HelloSign from Dropbox. Those are all 3 places that you can execute legally binding documents remotely, where it just happens over email and each party authenticates themselves. Those are the 3 main ones that come off the top of my head, and I've used all 3 of those before to execute legal documents. They are legally binding. As far as settlement questions, I'm not sure I've got the answers for you there. You may see if your brokerage has any guidance on how they're executing documents, settlement documents, if they're doing them virtually or remotely. And also with whatever the settlement company is, make sure they know, make sure you understand from them what tools they have at their disposal, how they're proceeding forward with settlements, whether they're actually isolating in 2 different conference rooms or if they're using an electronic means. I think a lot of different settlement companies are doing it differently. And so it's best to coordinate with the settlement companies and your brokerages to make sure you know what tools are the proper ones to use for your company policies and for the settlement process.
Jamie from Maryland asks for tips on maximizing workspace and time to work in families with children.
Sure. Maximizing your workspace. I'm not sure if that means the actual physical dimensions of where you're working, and that's really constrained by whatever your home setup is. I know some of my colleagues, they're working at the dining room table. They have really just taken the dining room table or, set up something equivalent to a TV tray to try and, just cordon off a place where they can find dedicated work. So they're not trying to work on the couch or at the coffee table or in bed or something like that. They just try and carve out the best space. I know one of my colleagues cleaned out a closet that was big enough for a desk, and they just have their laptop in there. That way they could close the door. Sure, it gets cramped, but that's their space to work. And then the other part is time to work with your family. Certainly if you've got people in your household that are old enough to understand boundaries, setting that time, trying to help have everybody be as self-sufficient as possible. I know that's really hard with elementary school age kids and so forth, but otherwise it's just doing your best to try and establish your boundaries between when you're at work and when you're at home, so that when you're at home and you've closed that work laptop for the day, then you truly are disconnected from work and working from home. But when the laptop's open and you're at work or you're on the phone with work, if you can, try and help your family understand that that is work time, just as if you were in the office.
Shanna from Maryland asks about virtual tours and getting them from listing agents, and how can we encourage agents to have them on the listings?
It's certainly a reasonable course of action, especially during these times when buyers are having probably a more difficult time getting in to see the property. Having the most robust virtual tour option you can would certainly be beneficial to the buyers. We've been trying to encourage people through making our training advertised by setting up the virtual business practices, YouTube links. It really is. I encourage you, if you know any agents, if there are properties that you're interested in, if you could contact that agent and say, is there any way that you could create a virtual tour? We at Bright have certainly relaxed the virtual tour requirements. We're allowing a broader range of virtual tours in there. So you can certainly go through any of the virtual tour vendors that are compatible with Bright. There's a whole list of them that you can find on our knowledge base, support.brightmls.com. Just search for virtual tours. Or if you needed to, you could just grab your phone, work out a time with the seller. If you represent the seller, and just grab your phone and just do a walkthrough and take a video walkthrough. Just walk room to room. This is the living room. This is the kitchen. Point things out, and then upload that to YouTube. YouTube will give you a URL that you can put into the virtual tour. So there's lots of different ways that you can still make the features of the property that's for sale known. And we've been trying to encourage all agents to maximize the exposure of their property by offering virtual tours, virtual walkthroughs, whatever it is, so that even if the buyers can't get in, they can still get a feel for what that property has to offer.
The next question from Lauren in PA is one I think you've addressed already, but just to make sure she's heard, how do I best set up my space and my day to maximize efficiency?
Sure. So, common themes that we've seen before, that we've talked about before, dedicate your time to being at work versus being at home. Work on the work-life balance. So I don't go to work before 8. That time beforehand is time that I allocate for family. We sit around and have breakfast, and the time before 8 o'clock is work. I dedicate 90 minutes in the middle of the day for home time, help with homework, help with classes for my kids that are in school. But they know that they have to wait until like 11 or 11:30 before I can help with homework. And that's, my kids are a little bit older. They're in high school, so that's a little bit easier for me. But I've been able to communicate with my family and set up those times. So I've got a dedicated space that I work with, physical space. I've got a dedicated time that I work for work. It's that way I can get into the dedicated mindset of being at work versus being at home.
Chuck from Maryland asks, how should you organize virtual meetings for potential buyers and sellers?
Sure. Well, there's lots of different options out there for virtual meetings. You could use a platform that works for everybody involved, especially you. That's a good first step. Many of them are free. If you're not already, you might take this time to get comfortable with a virtual meeting platform like Zoom.us. They have free basic accounts that give you meetings of up to 40 minutes. If you want to do longer than that, they do have a paid option. You could go with a paid option like the webinar platform that we're on right now that could do webinars for 2 or 3 people. It doesn't have to be several hundred people like we have here. It could be they could be small. You could do something like FaceTime with multiple parties, Skype with multiple parties. Really, it's making sure that each party has the application on their computer or phone, setting up a time, especially bearing in mind different time zones if you're working with clients that are in other time zones. Just finding that time, blocking it off on everybody's calendar, and then sharing the right contact information between everybody, whether it's a conference phone number, a video conference phone number, your Skype handles, your FaceTime information, just coordinating that between all the parties, and then you can have meetings. But once the meetings have started, generally the tools were all pretty good.
Dwayne from Virginia asks, how are you prospecting leads if you can't do in-person meetings?
There are virtual options that are available, online prospecting that are available. You could do certainly the things that we've learned from public records. You could download addresses. You can download phone numbers if you're going to cold call or send mailers. Now would be a good time, if you haven't done it before, to start to work on a social media strategy, how you would interact with people either on Facebook or on Twitter or on Instagram or on TikTok or whatever your social media platform of choice is. But it's really not so much different than the tactics you might take while you were working at your desk at the office. You would use many of those same techniques at home, because I think for many real estate agents, their sole source of prospecting wasn't sitting at the duty desk and having people walk into the front door and hope that they became a client. They would do other proactive marketing techniques, from farming, mailers. I guess people might still be doing cold calling. I don't really know what the state of cold calling is. And a lot of people do generate business via social media, being present and active on Facebook in different communities, Patch, your different neighborhood websites, just being active in your where your potential buyers and sellers congregate. Be there, be part of the conversation, be there as not just an expert trying to advertise your services, but as someone who's knowledgeable in the community and making yourself known and aware to the participants in that community as a real person. And that can help. That can help with your prospecting, just sort of natural, organic growth of prospecting. I hope that helps.
And our final question comes from Holly from Maryland, who asked, what is the best way to do virtual tours and virtual open houses?
Yeah, it's hard for me to say best, so you'll forgive a little bit of the weasel words here. The best way to do it is the best way that works for you. I don't love that answer, but we don't have really a specific virtual tour vendor, one specific that we say is the best, because there's different people have different needs, whether it's the seller, what they're comfortable with doing, with having in their house, whether it's photographers or having the real estate agent come and help put together the tour. It's really a collaboration between you as the agent and representing the sellers, understanding what they're comfortable with, understanding what you can do in your local jurisdiction legally, what you can do as far as technology-wise, how many people you can accommodate, what technology platforms are you comfortable with. There's a couple of different factors there. But you can, I could say, have a virtual open house with a Zoom meeting at a time that's comfortable for you and your sellers. And I don't know. It's hard for me to say what's best. I think it really is a conversation between you and your seller and what you're comfortable with from a technology perspective and what they're comfortable with as far as a distancing perspective.
Okay. Well,
I should add, if you want to find virtual tour vendors, you can find them over on the BrightMLS.com website. And if you want to learn about virtual tours and how to do those virtual business practices, you can also see some of those on our YouTube channel that I think I mentioned before, youtube.com/BrightMLS. And there's a whole virtual business practices playlist that should give you some good online learning opportunities to learn more about what we have to offer. There you go. Thanks, Valerie.
Sure. Thank you, Mike. We
Anytime.
appreciate your expertise.
Sure. Anytime. Happy to help.
And thank you to all of you for submitting your questions and your suggestions. We really appreciate your engagement with this series.